Good morning. Good morning. How we doing? Happy Friday. It's the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast, and I am your host, Richie. Riding solo. Want to speak on some historic events spanning over in the NBA as well as the NFL. As Dicker the Kicker did something that we have not seen since 1976. I never saw it because I wasn't alive. Carl Anthony Towns making his Minnesota revisit, this time as a guest. First time ever playing against the Minnesota Timberwolves. He spent his previous 9 years in the NBA as a member of the Minnesota Timberwolves. That was the big blockbuster deal in the offseason, and he made NBA history, NFL history being made, NBA history being made. And on today's show, I also want to speak on the race to the one pick in the National Football League and maybe enhance my suspicions and speculations on who is going to be getting drafted mighty high, as this quarterback class is definitely going to take some precedent to particular guys that play in Miami and Colorado, maybe very much at the top of the list. Whether it's agreed upon or not, I do believe that this particular quarterback class is not as talented as previous years, and that does benefit guys like Cam Ward and Shador Sanders. We're going to start it up in Minnesota, the Twin Cities, New York Knickerbockers, big time victory in a statement game. When you trade franchise players for other franchise players, that first meeting means something. And you want to win. You want to show that your part of the trade is the winning part of the trade. If any of you are not aware, Dante DiVincenzo as well as Julius Randle. Julius Randle, who was the centerpiece and the face of the Knicks prior to the ascension of Jalen Brunson, were traded this offseason for Carl Anthony Towns, the Minnesota big man. And for the first time in NBA history, this has never happened before. Carl Anthony Towns recorded 20 rebounds and went 5 of 5 or better from three. That has never been done in an NBA game. He did that in his homecoming. And, the lead up to this game, Carl talked so fondly of his times in Minnesota. He was very candid. They said, "Do you miss playing here?" And he said, "There's no way that you can spend your entire NBA career somewhere and not miss it." He said all the right things. He said, "Those are still my brothers. I have love for all those guys." But Carl grew up a Knicks fan, and he's definitely living out a grown man fantasy playing in the Mecca. Knicks are playing some good ball right now. Knicks are playing some good ball. It's consistency as a Knicks fan that I always crave. The talent is there. But I must admit, Carl Anthony Towns is undeniably the best big that the New York Knicks have had since the legendary Patrick Ewing. And I would say somewhere in the middle, you got to give an honorable mention to Tyson Chandler as well as Marcus Camby. Marcus Camby's real ascension with the Knicks happened in his first year, 1999, strike shortened season. He helped the Knicks win the Eastern Conference Finals and really elevated his game when Patrick Ewing was sidelined for the finals with a torn Achilles. Tyson Chandler was on the team with J. Kidd, Melo, and Amare that had championship aspirations, but unfortunately fell short in 2012 2013 to the Indiana Pacers when Carmelo Anthony was playing but nursing a bad shoulder. That was a particular Knicks team that was a shooting star that got disbanded rather quickly. J. Kidd only played 1 year with the organization, and that was a team that I personally think matched up great with LeBron James, Chris Bosh, D Wade, the Heatles that were put together for 4 years. But we'll never know because it never happened. But as the season continues to approach the new year, I feel that the New York Knicks have the depth, the tools, and the pieces to challenge the Boston Celtics when it matters most, which of course will be in the playoffs and a potential Eastern Conference Finals matchup. You have to account for the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are having quite the season, quite the start this year. They've cooled off some at different junctures, but the Cleveland Cavaliers, still a very good ball club. And I must admit, out west, it's hard to decipher. Golden State Warriors suffered a real beatdown yesterday, losing by over 50 to Memphis. That was just hard to believe. You're just not used to seeing Golden State on that side of anything. This is not the same Warriors team as they're in transition with Klay Thompson currently in Dallas. But yeah, big night for Cat, big night for the Knicks. And I want to ask you guys, Knicks fans, who should be the number one option in New York? Sometimes Jalen and Carl wear the hat on different nights. Jalen Brunson had a legendary playoff last year, did everything in his power to get the Knicks as far as he did. And I said this recently to my co-host Idris Salam. I believe that Dante DiVincenzo, who was one of the moving parts in that Minnesota trade, might actually come back when he is able to. But you can't knock the trade. You're getting a bona fide superstar, one of the best bigs in the league, a guy who could put up 30 and 20 on any given night. This man leads the NBA in rebounding right now. And it takes a lot off of Jalen Brunson's shoulders. I feel that Jalen Brunson's first job has to be a facilitator to get the entire offense going. And what I like about the layers of this Knicks offense is that you have you have various players that on any given night could light up the score sheet. OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, who is still kind of getting his feet wet into this Knicks offense. Weapons galore. And part of building a championship roster is knowing that you could depend on guys past your big two. Because make no mistake, Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson are the big two. But I feel that from an offensive-driven standpoint, Carl needs to be the number one because I think Jalen is a better player when he is getting everyone else involved. Going to hit on the NFL. Big win for the Los Angeles Chargers last night as they defeat their division rivals, the Denver Broncos, pull off the season sweep. Big time win for them, a game that they really needed. And, early on, it looked like Denver was going to run them. Bo Nix had a hell of a first half. I want to slap myself in the face for not playing Gus Edwards in one of my 4 fantasy leagues that I'm still alive in. But I can only be upset so much because of the sheer fact that he's been very quiet. But he did get 68 yards, 2 touchdowns, and in that particular league, put up 20 points. But the story of the night is Cameron Dicker, one of the more consistent kickers in the NFL right now for the Chargers. Did something yesterday that hasn't been done since 1976, which is kick a field goal that is non-contested. It's a rule in the NFL book where you can attempt that field goal without any resistance of anyone trying to block, but it has to happen immediately after a fair catch. It was just before teams go to the locker room. Really excellent call by Coach Harbaugh. And just to think that something like that hasn't been executed since 1976 means that you're really thinking outside the box. So kudos to him on that. And I'll be honest, I picked the Broncos to win this game. So this is a huge victory for the Chargers, who were starting to slip a little, and they really needed this victory. And speaking of slipping, you got the Detroit Lions in the other conference, NFC, sitting at the 1 seed. But they are looking a little more vulnerable. And now with David Montgomery out for the year, I believe he was going to try to do a third opinion, but I would be shocked if any doctor would let him play. It's unfortunate. I feel bad for him. But, Philadelphia Eagles are in D.C. this week, taking on the Commanders. We're going to do a full preview of the remaining games that we didn't cover the other day. But I'm just going to say this. The Philadelphia Eagles, in my opinion, have the best path to the 1 seed. And should the playoffs run through Lincoln Financial Field, I think the Eagles have a great chance to win the conference. Minnesota, nobody's talking about them all that much. Everybody's still on Detroit. But one more Detroit slip-up, and it could happen head-to-head with Minnesota, and things could get mighty interesting as the Vikings have kept pace with the Lions, and they actually sport the same record. Lions have the leg up because of a previous victory. I believe that game will be in Detroit. The first meeting was in Minnesota. But, similar stadiums. So it's not and then, they're division rivals, two domes, similar stadiums. So that doesn't really play a part in a comfort level for either offense. But yeah, this is going to be a big game right now. AJ Brown's dinged up, so something to monitor. He also is on that same fantasy team, one of my 4 that's still alive. But I'm looking good in fantasy so far. We'll see how it plays out. You can't ever count anything before it happens. But I do believe that at minimum in 3 of these 4 leagues, I will be advancing to my league finals. Want to hit on the NFL draft and some of the teams that are bottom feeders this year. And you can't really talk about bottom feeders without talking about my beloved New York Giants, who will be headed into Atlanta to welcome Michael Penix into the NFL, a player that some Giant fans wanted to draft. Maybe a little known fact, maybe not. The New York Giants don't mess with left-handed quarterbacks. And the one time that I really was upset with the organization is going way back into the 90s when a player by the name of Mark Brunell, who was a great Jacksonville Jaguar, was not drafted by the Giants. As many of you know, after Phil Simms left, the Giants decided to go to Duke. They decided to go with Dave Brown. That worked out horrifically, truly horrifically. And then, years later, we go to Duke again, a basketball school, and get Daniel Jones. So why am I talking about this? Because the draft is so important. You got to get the right guy. Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, the 2 biggest names in the quarterback market coming in for this new NFL draft. Shedeur is going to bring quite the circus, quite the media attention. Of course, he is the son of the legendary Deion Sanders. Cam Ward, a little more reserved of a personality, not short on confidence, nor should he be when you play that position. But I'll be honest, as a Giants fan, I am a little skeptical about going to the ACC yet again, even though Cam Ward is a very good player. As Shedeur goes, I'm not going to lie. Seeing him and Malik Neighbors play catch in Manhattan was kind of cool. And I do believe that Shedeur is going to have a good career. But something tells me that it's the Raiders and Shedeur that is the perfect marriage for the Shedeur brand, things of that nature. And I know some Giant fans are probably going to just go berserk if we do not take a quarterback with either pick 1 or pick 2 as of right now. It would be pick 2. But my personal opinion, the Giants could go a couple of different routes. They could trade back because this team's not going to get fixed with 1 pick. They could stay put at 2, assuming that that's where they stay, 2. And I would take Shedeur's teammate, Travis Hunter, who I believe may very well play both ways in the NFL. I happen to feel he is a better corner than a wide receiver. But I had a conversation recently with friend of the show, Quentin Moore, and he made mention how Travis might want to focus more on the offensive side because receivers make a lot more money than corners. So that is something to monitor. But I think the Giants, whether it's with Shane and Dable, whether it's with a new regime, they have to completely make sure that this is the right pick because this is such a pivotal draft because it's not every year that you draft this high. And they have leverage. They can trade back, get more picks, because I don't think the Giants can be picking that much further next year than they are this year. It's going to take a lot to fix things. And as the race goes for the number 1 pick, you've got 2 of the lowlies, the Jacksonville Jaguars making the trip into Vegas, taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. Mac Jones versus Desmond Ridder. Not exactly the most attractive quarterback matchup, but I will say this. The Jaguars, despite their horrendous record, have been competing for the better part of a month. They've been in a lot of these games. Their offense looks a heck of a lot better. And Mac Jones is starting to gain a little confidence. Give me the Jaguars for the W. And I think the Raiders will remain in that number 1 pick. I think this is going to actually be a high-scoring game. I'm going to take the Jaguars 30. I'm going to take the Raiders 24. 30-24 in favor of the road team. I'm a little nervous. I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm a little nervous about the Giants winning because of the fact that it's Michael Penix's first game in the NFL. Atlanta Falcons making the decision to bench Kirk Cousins, and rightfully so. He was playing like hot garbage. But, even with the young man making his first career start, I still like the Falcons to win this game because the Giants are just that bad. Drew Lock will be under center for this one, but I just don't see this thing going the Giants' way. Give me the Falcons 27. Give me the Giants 17. 10-point victory for the home team. And the New England Patriots are still in the mix for that elusive one pick as well. They're playing their division rivals, the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen has just been completely on fire. The forecast could be calling for some crummy weather. It looks like it could be raining. I do believe to a level that could limit the passing game. I don't think that you're going to see Josh Allen go off in the same metric that he did against the Detroit Lions. This actually could be a game where the running backs are very much into the game script. And I believe that Johnson and Cook are both going to eat. Johnson more so in the passing game. Patriots, in my opinion, have a bright future because I think they got the right quarterback, but they still got to fill out that roster properly and just kind of trust the process. But give me the Buffalo Bills 34. Give me the New England Patriots 20. I think the game is going to be a little closer than people anticipate, with Buffalo putting away later and making it a 2-score victory. Saturday, announcement to come on the start time, but we are going to hit on the remainder of the NFL schedule. I'm going to reach out to my guys and see who is going to be on the show. But be a big pivotal week in the NFL. And it's a lot of fun when you're in all these fantasy leagues and you're still kind of hanging around. I play five leagues, but it's kind of dope that I'm like one win away from the finals in 4 different ones. So we'll see how it plays out. Last year, sadly, I lost each fantasy league in the championship round. You still get a little bit of the money, but yeah, I can honestly say that's never happened before. But if you haven't already, please make it a point to like and subscribe to the channel, the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast on YouTube. Another thing I wanted to throw at you guys. What are your thoughts on Jake Paul, Conor McGregor? I thought McGregor had a respectable showing some years back against the legendary Floyd Mayweather. But this is boxing. So and with just all the stips and the way that Paul seems to have everything in his palm, I would have to figure that Paul will find a way to win. But, McGregor being the UFC legend, I'd love to see McGregor win. And I understand that Jake Paul also challenged Lance Armstrong, and Lance Armstrong made it be clear that this is not going to be in a boxing ring. Of course, the cycling legend's talking about something in that regard. And yeah, I think Jake catches the L there. Lance Armstrong was just a ferocious athlete at what he did best, which is cycling. So interesting to say the least. Mike Tyson recently said that he doesn't remember much about the fight. Listen, I love Mike, and I don't want anything to disparage his legacy. He is literally my favorite fighter in my lifetime. And I would say close second, a couple of guys tied, maybe like Oscar De La Hoya, as well as Tito Trinidad. But, Mike needed the bag. But Netflix, between the poor production and hyping up people, that was a disappointing situation all the way through. Just a disappointing situation. Saturday night main event super recently. Really cool to see Jesse the Body Ventura back. As a professional wrestling fan, as a kid in the golden era, the Saturday night main event was just an amazing production. And seeing the Body come back after like 40 years of not really calling a full event, really something. And the fallout with Jesse and former COO Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon recently sold the company. Was that Jesse was trying to start a union for pro wrestlers. When you consider that these men and women are on TV all the time, you would think that their health benefits and things that a lot of people overlook would be better. But they are essentially like hired contract workers. And that is something in the wrestling industry that has always been very unfair. Jesse wanted to do what was best for his peers. And legend has it that Hulk Hogan kind of ratted on Jesse to Vince McMahon. Not long after WrestleMania 6, Jesse was out of the company. But Jesse Ventura, really interesting dude, man. Former Navy SEAL, former governor of Minnesota, also a movie star in his heyday. He had roles in some action movies in the 80s. He was in Predator, among other movies. But it was cool to see Jesse back. And that many years removed, still very relevant in terms of the wrestling realm. And, the wrestling marks, believe me, we still love Jesse Ventura very much. Until next time, I am Richie. Announcements to come for our show on Saturday. If you are still hanging around in your fantasy leagues, good luck. I hope you guys get the bag. And damn it, I should have played Gus Edwards. Stayed away from 2 Chargers and didn't advance, or potentially won't advance. I'm projected to lose that one, but we shall see. Projected to win the other 3. It's good when you have Josh Allen in almost every league. I am out for now. Have a great, great Friday.